Hey everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. Sunday today, it's a beautiful sunny day outside. Despite yesterday we had just all sorts of rain. So today, it's kind of a nice day. Maybe we'll even get out for a walk. So I want to share with you, I'm going to show you the new positioner tool. And I'm making a wreath card from it. So it may be a feature you haven't seen yet, or maybe you have, but this new positioner is amazing. It is only available if you sign up in the Stampin' Up! Community. So if you've ever thought about signing up with Stampin' Up!, joining my team, we have an amazing team. I have an amazing team of called Ink and Paper Stampers. We just had our team meeting and I'm always so inspired by them. So I saw a great demonstration that I'm going to case today, on Wednesday, sorry, not today, on Wednesday that Sandy did. And so I am always so inspired by my team. And so if you've ever thought about signing up and becoming part of the community, doesn't mean you have to do classes or anything unless you want to do that. You can just sign up for the discount. And you get the new positioner tool plus $165 in product in Canada for only $135. Amazing. And so I thought I'd show you this. I'm going to make a card using the Woolly Friends bundle. It's a punch bundle. And I'm going to make a wreath card from it. Hey Pam, so I'm reading your note. I had an idea for this card, and suddenly about 15-20 minutes ago I thought, I think I could make these sheep into a wreath. And so we'll see how this goes. You never know when you suddenly change your mind what you're going to do. All right, let's switch over and we'll get started. So this is the Woolly Friends. Let me just get the punch. The Woolly Friends bundle. I've said this before, I am a sucker for punches. I love punches, and I love this Woolly Friends bundle. Look at these little sheep and the little face. And so you can punch out the body of the sheep. You can also punch out the bow and the bell and the head. And so you can make all sorts of cards using this. It could be a baby's card with welcome cutie. It could be just like you're simply fabulous. That's what I'm going to use today. Such a cute stamp set. Okay, let me show you the positioner. So if you haven't seen this. So, see my wreath? Okay, so this is the positioner. It comes with a platform that stays nice and sturdy. It's 8.5 by 11-ish. So it's the size of a regular piece of cardstock or close to it. Comes with 2 magnets. They do stick nicely, but they're easy to pull apart, which is really nice compared to the magnets that were on the Stamparatus. So if they do stick together, it's easy to pull them apart because they do have the tabs on them, which we struggled with. I used to try and put washi tape on my magnets, and they still couldn't get them apart. So those are the magnets that stick. It's got 2 plates that will hold either a really big stamp or set of stamps if you wanted to do that, and then the smaller positioner piece that will hold sentiments and smaller stamps. So this big piece, not that, but that. Okay, so there are pegs on the 2 corners that are springy, so spring up and down, and so the holes, these fit into the holes, and then there are pegs on the underside of this that are springy as well. And so when you put it in, it sits nicely without the stamp. So if the stamp was on here, the stamp wouldn't be touching your paper. And so then you would ink it up and then press down to stamp. So great if you want to do a bunch of stamping all at once. Now, this one allows you to do a smaller stamp. Or maybe do a stamp in the middle of a piece of cardstock. And it's got those same, springy corners, but it fits also into these pegs. And so you can do stamping like where you want to do the hitch stamping that we used to do with the Stamparatus, where you would stamp and then you move it down a couple of pegs, stamp, move it down a couple of pegs, and so you can do ombre effect or change colors of your stamp. So really nice features of this. There is also grid paper that you can purchase. It's got little tiny pegs that the grid paper just pokes into those little holes and stays in place, which is really nice. Okay, so the other feature, I'm going to see if I can zoom in. So can you see this little triangle here? So this triangle is right between two of these two little tiny pegs, and so a piece of cardstock will fit, a square piece of cardstock, the corner of any piece of cardstock will fit in, and that's what you can use to do a wreath. Now, when I did my launch last week, I demonstrated this, but I hadn't had a chance to play with it, nor had I really thought about what that was for, but this is a great way to make a wreath. Okay, so let's get started, and I'll show you. So if you aren't in love with this positioner tool, yeah, hopefully you will be by the time I've finished my card. All right, so I've got my pieces of cardstock. Get my trimmer. So I'm going to use real red. So my idea for this card was, how many of you remember Princess Diana? Of course you remember Princess Diana, but how many of you remember she wore a black, red, and white sweater that had mostly white sheep on it, if I remember correctly, and one black sheep that was kind of sticking out from the rest, and that was my idea for this card. So I'm going to continue with that idea, but I'm going to make it into a wreath. So this piece of real red cardstock is 5.5 by 8.5, and I've scored it at 4.25. So we'll just take and burnish, fold into the mountain or the raised line, and give it a good burnish with your bone folder. Now I've got a piece of basic black that is 4 inches by 5.25, and then I have a piece of basic white that is 3.75 by 3.75. This is what we're going to do our wreath on. Excuse me. And then this is a piece. Excuse me, still getting over my cold. Haven't been coughing all morning until, of course, I go to talk. So this is a piece of the Time for Love, Meant for Love, something like that. Ooh, endless, part of the Endless Love bundle is part of it, and I don't know, my brain is really cannot remember the name of the suite. Meant to Be, maybe. Suite that's in the mini catalog. It's the Valentine suite. So this piece is cut 1 inch by 3.75, and just for the bottom. Okay, so let's stamp our wreath, and then we're going to add a black sheep to it. So I'm not going to use the big plate. I'm going to use this small plate, and I'm going to put, this is 3.75 by 3.75, and I'm going to put it so that it's tucked like up against those two little tiny pegs and into that triangle that is between I guess it's kind of at the 0 point of the of this grid. And we're going to use this small, the smaller, the narrower of the plates. So I need the stamp. I'm going to use the stamp that's got the feet on it, and my feet are going to go towards the middle. So I'm going to try to get my feet, kind of get this lined up so it's in the middle of that point and not too far into the middle. Oopsie. Not too far into the middle so that the feet overlap. They might overlap a little bit, something like that. So you could do this with flowers, you could do this with leaves. All right, and then we're gonna just take and put our plate on, press down to pick up the stamp. Now you probably want to hold this down a little bit. It's easy to put it back into position because it just goes back into the point. So so now I've got my stamp where I want it, and I'm going to stamp 4 times, and I'm using Versamark. So this is going to go back onto those points, press down to stamp, and we now have one of our sheep's bodies. I've got ink on my fingers now before I spread that onto the card base. Let's wipe that. Okay. Now we're going to take and turn this 90 degrees again, so the point of my cardstock is between these 2 little pegs and into the triangle. And now we're going to take our stamp. Oh, gee, that wouldn't have been good. Dump my stamp. Okay, and we're going to stamp this again. Press down, lift it up. It springs back up, so that's very handy. Take and turn it 90 degrees. Put my magnets back into place. See if I can ink this up without dumping it, tipping it. Stamp. And one more time. You see how easy this would be to make a wreath? All right. I'm having a hard time hanging on to anything this morning. I've been cutting all morning for the upcoming stamp camp, the Creativity Abounds stamp camp. So it's still time to register. If you haven't registered for it, I have a couple of extra kits, so the information for that's on my blog. All right, how cute is this little wreath? My wreath of sheep's bodies. All right, so that's what I'm going to use. So that's how you can use your Stamparatus. It's really cool. Again, it's only available if you sign up into the Stampin' community. For the moment, it will go on sale at some point, but Stampin' Up! Has not announced when it's going to go on sale. Okay, so there's my wreath. I'm going to set that aside, and in going with my idea that I'm going to kind of recreate what I remember of the Princess Diana sweater. I'm going to take my stamp off and put it onto a block, because I'm going to do one black sheep, and I'm going to stamp after I use my embossing buddy. I'm going to stamp one body. I'm going to stamp it this way, like this. So I'm stamping it in Versamark. There is a body that if you stamp it in black, I could have stamped it in black and punched it out, just the body, but I thought it would look really sharp with the white on as an embossed. And I'm going to do the head, and I'm kind of doing these. You're probably wondering, why is she stamping the head way down at the other end? Well, because I'm going to punch these out, and I don't want the head to be punched like this. I don't want to punch out of the gosh, what am I trying to say? Of course I'm trying to say, if I punch this out, depends on how you have this set up. I might end up punching out the head from the body and making such a mess if I don't do it this way. I'm still trying to get over this cold, and today I'm feeling particularly foggy. So I'm going to use my heat tool. And hold it in place until it starts to melt, and then you can start moving it around. There we go. Head. There we go. All So now I can take, and I'm going to take and stamp out the punch, or punch out the body, my black body. Got my body. And now I'm going to take and punch out the head from the other end. There it is. So I have my head and my body. All right, close up my Versamark. All right, so now I want to do 3 more heads, but I'm going to do them in Memento. So I'll do 1. And I'll do 1, just so I can punch them out separately. And okay, let's punch these out before I go ahead and punch the little bow out. So if I do it in the corner, I'm not going to punch out anything else. This one, you see what happens when you put it. I should have kind of turned it into the corner, but now I'm going to get part of this body punched out and wasting kind of paper. Did I lose a head? I did lose a head. All right, so I've got 1 head, 2 heads, 3 heads, and I do need that. All right, and now I'm going to stamp. So I want to stamp and punch out the little bow. I'm going to do 1. How is this gotta figure out how this is going to punch. It punches upside down. Punches out upside down. So we'll do 3. Oops. Let's do that one better. 3. And when you're doing little pieces like this, sometimes it's just easier to cut into small strips, so you can kind of position it where you want it to go. Let's see if I can actually get this in. There we go. Got that one in. No, I don't. It's going the other way. The other thing you can do, which I think is what I'm going to do, is you can punch out 4 bows and then stamp them. This is a photopolymer stamp, so let's do that. Punch out 4 bows and then we're just going to stamp afterwards, because I am having all sorts of issues. I mostly use a template when I'm trying to punch out from a punch where all the different pieces, and you may not be punching them all out of the same color at the same time. And so if you create a template by punching out and then stamping through that template, it works really well. So if you, for example, let's see, I have a piece well, let's take this. So to create a template to make it easy for you to punch or to stamp, you could actually punch out all of these pieces and then use it as a template when you want to stamp. So if you wanted to stamp all of these 4 pieces, you would then put this piece onto your template, onto your cardstock, and then stamp through the openings. And then that way you could insert this whole piece in, not the template, but the piece you've stamped into the punch, and it would punch out all 4 of the pieces all at once. What a long-winded story that was. Okay, so let's take some smoky slate. Let's come out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I do want to take my Memento, and I'm going to take and stamp these bows. Now, because the bows, the the stamp is a photopolymer stamp, you can fairly easily, that one I didn't do very well, fairly easily stamp the bow. Although I'm not getting it high enough, so let's try that again. Oh gosh. I say that, fairly easily stamp the bow so that it's positioned and centered. I'm not doing the best today, but it is what it is. My sheep are definitely kind of black sheep here. All right. And then it is two-step stamping, and so I'm going to stamp my bow in real red. So I have a bright red bow for my sheep. That's easier to do than my real red is very juicy. All right, so I've got my real red bows. I'm going to color my bodies with a little bit of my Stampin' blends. And I'm just going to do kind of the curly cues on here. I'm not doing all of the body. The curly cues on the legs. I hope this card turns out as cute as I have it in my head that it's going to. Okay, so little curly cues. I guess I only need to do 3 of them, but just because I don't know which is going to be which. And then I'm going to just do the little curly cue at the top of his head. 3 of those, like that. Okay, so let's start putting our card together. We have our card base. And I'm just gonna glue my piece of, actually let's glue the basic white piece on first. And of course, I need my little angel on my shoulder to tell me always to close your liquid glue up when you're done using it. I am notorious for leaving it open. There we go. And it gets a bit of a clog in it. So this is just going to go on. Remember, this was 3/4 by 3/4. So that's just going to go on the top of my basic black. And then this piece of the designer series paper can go at the bottom, like that. And then this can go on to the card base. Okay, and then I'm going to use dimensionals for the body of my black sheep. And I'm going to put my black sheep down here in the corner. Yeah, I don't know what it is about leaving the glue on. All right, so there's my, oh, that's so cute. All right, put these little heads on. The one thing you might want to be watch if you do this is making sure that that the head, I've got it sticking out just slightly over the edge of the card, but I think it's going to be okay. Gosh, this is cute, cute, cute. All right. Oh, cute. Okay, let's put the little bows on, and we're going to use mini dimensionals for this. So I'm just going to take and actually stick my mini dimensional there. Actually, on my black sheep, I'm going to just glue it down because I didn't pop up the head on the black sheep, like the head is popped up on. Oops, I guess I should take the backing off. Like that. Take the backing off. And that one can just go on with glue. Oh, how cute. I think he's cute. All right, now I do need a sentiment. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says, I thought I had it out already, I do. That says, what does it say? You're simply fabulous. And I'm just going to take and cut this out with my paper snips. If you don't like to fussy cut, then you can just cut a rectangle. That works well too. You guys know me by now. I mostly cut out my sentiments, just fussy cut them. Use dimensionals. Just gonna put that right there. Oops. Maybe straight would be good. There we go. And what did I pull out for embellishments? Same thing. Oh, there they are. I've got these are called the Moody Palette Glossy dots. They come in Secret Sea, Old Olive, Cloud Cover, and white, and I'm going to use the white ones because I thought they would just pop nicely on the red. And then the last thing I need, which I think I used my cardstock for the inside of the card. Let me see if I have a piece. I do. Here's a piece of basic white. So let's stamp something on the inside of the card. If you have designer series paper, you could do that. I'm going to stamp the little tulips using tuxedo black. Down here in the corner. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to stamp. I am going to need to find real red, mossy meadow. Okay. All right. I'm just going to color these tulips. So I'm going to do 2 of them in real red. And one of them I'm going to do in basic black. We do have black tulips. They almost look like a really dark purple, but they do have black tulips. Just to follow the theme of the card. And then this is mossy meadow, just for the leaves. Oof. There we go. Okay, my lid is on my glue. All right, I think that card, let's see, let's go out a little bit, is very cute. and kind of follows my does two things. It follows my theme of having the one black sheep, and also showed you how to make a wreath using the new positioner, which I'm so excited about. So again, if you have ever thought about maybe now's the time to sign up for the discount, or maybe you want to teach a class or two, or yeah, maybe you're just doing this as a hobby. I signed up as a hobbyist demonstrator over 15 years ago for the discount, and I enjoyed the discount still today, but enjoyed the discount for many years before I started doing any classes. I think 7 or 8 years. So anyway, it's a great deal at the moment if you've ever thought about signing up for that discount. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me today. Apologies, my head is still a bit foggy. I'm still struggling with this cold a little bit, but hopefully you enjoyed the card. I think he's really cute. And I will be back on Tuesday at a little bit later, I believe. I'm not sure exactly what time it's going to be because I have a meeting in the afternoon. So it'll probably be closer to 6:30 or so on Tuesday night before I go live with my sketch challenge. Thanks for joining me today. Happy stamping.